What if the ceasefire between the United States and Iran collapses? Will India be dragged into another geopolitical crisis? Will petrol prices cross 120 rupees a litre? Will millions of Indians working in the Gulf be at risk? Or will India emerge stronger by using its diplomacy and strategic partnerships? The answer is not as simple as yes or no, because every conflict in West Asia eventually reaches Indian homes, not through missiles, but through oil prices, inflation, trade, and diplomacy. Welcome to PowerPlay Politics. This is Shrey, and you're watching News Asia. Tonight, we decode one question that every Indian should be asking. Should India worry if the US-Iran ceasefire collapses? At first glance, this looks like another conflict thousands of kilometers away. But geography doesn't protect economies. India imports a large portion of its crude oil from West Asia. The Gulf is also home to millions of Indian workers, making it one of India's biggest sources of remittances. A fresh conflict between Washington and Tehran could disrupt shipping, raise insurance costs for cargo vessels, and threaten energy supplies. Geopolitical analysts continue to warn that the current ceasefire remains fragile because the underlying disputes over Iran's nuclear program, sanctions, and regional influence remain unresolved. That means the first impact of a war may not be military, it could be economic. Let's begin with the worst possibility. Suppose the ceasefire collapses completely. Iran responds aggressively. The United States retaliates. Israel becomes directly involved. Shipping through the Strait of Hormuz is disrupted. Remember, nearly 1/5 of the world's traded oil moves through this narrow passage. If even a fraction of that supply is interrupted, oil prices could again surge. For India, higher crude prices mean more expensive fuel, more expensive transport, higher food prices, pressure on inflation, pressure on government finances, and pressure on every household budget. At the same time, thousands of Indian workers across the Gulf could require evacuation if the conflict spreads beyond Iran. India has handled such crises before, from Yemen to Ukraine and Sudan. But another major evacuation would test both logistics and diplomacy. Now let's look at the optimistic outcome. The ceasefire survives despite occasional violations. Diplomatic negotiations continue. The Strait of Hormuz remains open. Oil supplies remain stable. Markets stay calm. For India, this is the ideal scenario. Unlike many countries, New Delhi enjoys working relations with both Israel and Iran. It also maintains close strategic ties with the United States and Gulf nations. That unique position allows India to remain a credible voice for dialogue instead of confrontation. India's foreign policy has evolved considerably over the last decade. It no longer believes in choosing sides. Instead, it chooses interests. India works with Washington on defense. It partners with Israel on technology and security. It cooperates with Iran on connectivity projects. And it continues strengthening relations with Saudi Arabia and the UAE. This balanced approach gives India room to maneuver even during geopolitical crises. That may prove to be India's greatest strategic advantage if tensions rise again. Should India panic? No. But India should certainly prepare. The bigger risk isn't a single missile strike. The bigger risk is uncertainty. Markets dislike uncertainty. Businesses dislike uncertainty. Investors dislike uncertainty. Even if the fighting remains limited, prolonged uncertainty can slow growth and affect India's economy. Even if the fighting remains limited, prolonged uncertainty can slow global growth and affect India's economy. Recent analysis suggests that the ceasefire functions more as a mechanism to manage conflict than to resolve it, making periodic flare-ups a continuing possibility rather than an exception. That's why India must continue strengthening its strategic petroleum reserves, diversify energy imports, protect sea lanes, and remain ready for humanitarian evacuations if necessary. So, should India worry? Yes, but not because war is inevitable. India should worry because the global economy has become deeply interconnected. A missile fired in West Asia can increase the price of vegetables in Kolkata or Delhi. A shipping disruption in the Gulf can affect factories in Gujarat. A diplomatic crisis in Tehran can influence inflation in Delhi. The good news is that India enters this uncertainty from a position of strength. It has diversified partnerships, it has growing diplomatic influence, and it has repeatedly demonstrated its ability to protect its citizens during international crises. The challenge now is to ensure that diplomacy succeeds before another conflict pushes the world closer to economic uncertainty. Because in geopolitics, the biggest victories are often the wars that never have to be fought. This is Shrey signing off, and this was your favorite segment, PowerPlay Politics on News Asia. Until next time, keep questioning power.